If I were to move abroad in 2025, this is what I would do. Are you frustrated in America because you want to get out? But here's the problem. You don't know how. Type a 1 in the comments if you can agree with that. Let me tell you, our family has successfully moved to East Africa and we have lived here for over 4 years. Stay tuned to find out how we did it and what you should do in 2025 to move out. Okay, so we're going to give you those items right now. There are about 6 items. Let's start with the first one. You got to cut out all distractions. You have got to do that. It is very important because there's negative news from the media that's coming out. It's contaminating your mind. You're also being distracted by things like doom scrolling, where you're just going through Facebook to be catching up with people or whatever it is that you're doing. And my favorite, you got to just stop watching Pop It. Where am I coming from all of this? You ever watch somebody build a house and they're taking a nail and they got a hammer and they're hammering that nail? Have you ever seen someone hit a nail one time, then go to another part of the house, hit a different nail one time, go to another part of the house, hit another nail one time? No, you don't see that. What you see them do is they are not distracted even by good things. They stay with their eyes in one particular area and they cut out all the other things, even if they're good distractions. So that's the first thing you want to do, is cut out distractions.
Okay, what's that? So we're about to go to the second thing on our list that you need to do. Okay, here we go. Focus. It's an art. It's a rare art form, but we're getting back to that nowadays, where we just pay attention to what's most important to us, even if it's negative. Got my notes here. Focus on your why. Why do you want to move abroad? It could be your identity. It could be something aspirational, like maybe you wanted to learn a language. Maybe you're very people-oriented and you want to expand your social circle and make your life more adventuresome. That's very important. Focus on that. Focus on what frustrates you, okay? For example, if it were so great in the United States, you, not anyone else, you wouldn't be thinking about moving on someplace else. You're kind of disenfranchised and disgruntled, everything, right? And then lastly, we have here, focus on making a I don't wanna list. What is it you don't want? Maybe you don't want inflation. Maybe you don't want Black history taken out of schools. Maybe you don't want immigrants being mistreated, and on and on and on. Sometimes focusing on the negative, focusing on what you don't want, can be a great motivator and a great focus point for moving abroad or doing anything, so long as it motivates you to get to the next level. In this case, a thriving move abroad. Focus on that.
So up next on number 3, we have YouTube. And what we're saying is create a dedicated YouTube channel. When we get on YouTube, it's like walking into Walmart or a supermarket and you have all these options in front of you. You have, clothing, you have food, you have technical devices. But I mean, if you're watching this channel, you're either subscribed or you're interested in moving. So what happens when we get on YouTube is we see cat videos, we see how to prepare an omelet, how to do all these different things. What you need is a dedicated YouTube channel that is focused just on that travel and expat life. You don't post on it, you only watch. And when you do that, the algorithm will reward you with more expat and travel content, and it'll just keep getting fed to you.
Okay, the next area is really, I'm not saying they're not, all of you have heard is not important, but this is something that really gets you started. So this is an area you really want to cue in on, is assessing how it is you're going to leave. What is it you're going to be doing? How are you going to begin? A lot of times we do things where we say, okay, I want to build this bookshelf. It's not going to just build itself. You have to have plans. You have to know what wood you're going to use, nails, whatever things you're going to use. So you have to have things in order. So in reference to knowing how you're going to do this, you got to figure out Do I have a passport? You got to get a passport, especially if you're going out of the United States. You need to have that ready. So you got to think of that ahead of time. So that's not something you got to be concerned about. The next thing is, are you out of debt? A lot of people say, I can't do this, I can't do that, but they haven't really sat down and said, and really looked at it and itemized to visually see where they are. You need to do that. You need to sit down and say, what are my bills looking like? What is that looking like? So I can really go and say, okay, these are things, the steps I really need to diligently do to be able to get on out of here because I'm not out of debt. Another thing is, have you told your family? So a lot of times I know people have go back and forth with stuff like that because we know some people have moved and have not told certain family. But you know your family, you know your relationships. You want to figure out, okay, how am I going to do that? How far in advance? What's it going to look like? So those are things that you really need to be thinking about. The other thing is, do you own a house? A lot of people say, how am I going to move? Because maybe I don't have enough money or whatever. That could help you. You could sell that house and you could use the monies to be able to go to wherever you're going to go. So you don't have to have it. I know a lot of people do that and have homes and stuff. But like I'm saying, this is what fits you. What is going to work for you? So selling that house could be monies that you could need and you don't have to worry about that. So, and those are things that are the top of the list of things that you really need to be thinking about. And reference to the house, that is something we did. We had moved to another area before we actually came out of the country, and we were having our house, it was being rented. But I got to the point where I said, I don't think I want to be kind of doing that. I want to be able to cut that tie completely and to be able to move on to where we were going to go. So that was something that we did. We sold our house, and we were very glad we did that because we could use that money to invest and do other and do other things as we moved on. Okay, our next area is determining where you want to live. So, your lifestyle. I want to say first off, a lot of us may live in a warm area now in the States. We may live in a cold area. But when you're cutting off that tie from living in the States to go to another country, you may say, I don't want to live in New York cold area anymore. I want to live where it's hot. I want to live tropical because a lot of people are saying, I've always wanted to live here. You have this opportunity now to do that. And we love the beach. So that was the thing that we did. We decided we wanted to be in an area where there was water, where we could go to the beach readily. You have to decide, do you like that? Or do you want to be in the mountain area because maybe that's something that you like? Or you got to decide, do I want to live where the locals are? Do I want to kind of be where they are? Or do I want to live in the city? Because I like city life, and I've always lived in a rural or urban or some other area. So those are things important to know, because once you make that move, you want to be able to be settled and say, okay, this is where I want to be. And I know a lot of people have thought that Africa and every place is, because that's where we are, that the whole of Africa is hot. But there are areas that have 4 seasons, like South Africa, and other areas, the mountains, where it gets very cold. So those are the things that you really want to think about as you're leaving the States to come to another area, is what is it going to look like? How are you going to feel comfortable where you are? And that's really important. How are you going to feel comfortable in that area that you choose to live in?
All right, so that was great about lifestyle, right? So we've come to the 6th point that we have on our list. All right, here we go. Prioritization. So it's similar to focus, where you're just honing in on what's most important to you, okay? So our notes here talk about prioritizing my top countries, or in this case, you, because remember, we've lived abroad for 4 years now. Prioritize your top countries. So some of those areas could be corruption rate. There are websites and archives that talk about the most and least corrupt countries around the world. If you're interested in moving to the continent of Africa, as we have, there are lists dedicated to that as well, to help you determine where do you want to go and what is the safest places for you. What might be the trickle-down effects when it comes to governance, money, education, those things. So you might look into that. We also have ease of immigration, like for tourism visas, retirement visas, digital nomad visas, etc. What is the ease as an American, as a foreigner in general, in case you're not an American, but you're watching this, you'll want to prioritize those things for your top countries to see how tough or easy is it for me to immigrate into a country for the first 6 months, first couple years, 5 years, maybe even investment if you're interested in that. And then also the economy, what are jobs looking like? What is entrepreneurship looking like? Spoiler alert, in our experience here on the continent of Africa, if you're interested in that, they prioritize their own citizens in each country. There are some areas where you can do some remote work or you can work with some of the hospitality and maybe other industries, but entrepreneurship is really where you want to prioritize when it comes to moving abroad, okay? And so those are things that you want to look at. These are all 6 of the areas. If you're interested in moving abroad, tell us in the comments what you're done with in America. That might be like, I'm done with the gun violence. I'm done with the school loans. What are you done with? I'm done with not being able to take care of my parents, so I want to take them abroad with me and we buy a compound for like half the price or something. I'm done with this in America. We really want to know from you, especially if you're like us and you're an expat wanting to make the world your oyster and live a new life abroad. We're glad that you watched this video. Again, these are the 6 areas, and we'll see you on the next video. Be blessed.